All right, fantastic. Good afternoon, everybody. This is VJ Kapoor, the receiver for the City of Chester, and you are attending the August 11th, 2026 Municipal Financial Recovery Advisory Committee meeting. Happy to be joined here by three of our four committee members, the Honorable Mayor Stefan Roots, the Honorable Councilman Shaquan Davis, Mr. Andrew Sheaf from DCED, Mr. Cody Deal, also from DCED, who is my executive assistant. And also joining us is Brad Kwan. Brad is my special assistant, who will be filling in for Jacob Polikov, who you all may have seen over the past couple of months. Brad will be filling in for the next couple of months. So great to see everybody. Hope everybody's having a good summer. I'm glad everybody could join us here in the middle of August. Today, we actually have a pretty important presentation on transparency, one that I think is important not only to me personally, but I know also to the city. And I've got a presentation that I'd like to go through there for the MFRAC committee today. Before we do that, I wanted to start with Mr. Dio. Cody, any public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Receiver. We have not received any public comments since the last meeting. So, as always, I would again just like to encourage the public to reach out to the committee. The best way to do so is still through our resource account email address, which is info@chesterreceivership.com. Again, that is info@chesterreceivership.com. There also is, I just wanted to mention as well, on our website, there is a communication tab where you can click and fill out a comment. It'll come through the resource account there as well. So, if it's easier to go through the website, that is another option. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Deal. Um, Anything for the any updates for the for the committee that the committee would like to make here? Anything, Mayor, Councilman, or Andrew?
Nope.
Nope, not today. All right, very good. I don't really have any updates here as well for the city or for receivership. Again, we continue to work very well with the city on a variety of areas. We do have a council meeting tomorrow that we are that we're looking forward
Hi.
to. Hmm, strange. Uh, haven't had that happen before. Well, why don't we continue on over here to our presentation today? And here's what I'd like to do is I do have some YouTube clips, some videos that I'd like to show as well. So let me go ahead and talk about and start the presentation here. So I'll ask Cody as we go through this, if there's any issues with the video to do let me know. So what I have for you all today, can you all see that? Okay. Great. Okay. So let's what I have for you all today is a conversation on transparency. And this is something that's been very near and dear to our heart. It's been something that the city has been working on very hard for the last couple of years. And it's good governance and it's transparency. And the point what we want to talk about today is actions, not just words on transparency. So there's a couple of things that I'd like to do with today's MFRAC. One is I'd like to respond to a July 29th op-ed on government transparency that was written by the CWA board chair, Mr. Noel Brandon, in the spirit. I also want to talk a little bit about why I believe that government transparency is critical to Chester's both short-term as well as long-term recovery. I want to talk and outline the city's significant improvements in government transparency. And I also want to. This is something that again, I say many times that I often am sort of surprised here in Chester when I run into things. But I want to show a video on a recent experience that I've had. I've been attending CWA board meetings for the past couple of months. And what happened at the July 16th board meeting that we'll discuss a little bit later, and then I'll show a video of, is something that I've never seen before, and that I was actually pretty shocked when it came to transparency. And it was really the opposite of what government transparency is. And we'll show the video a little bit later, and I'll take you guys through it. But it's something that I think was important to raise to this committee, and given the conversations that are being had right now in the public about transparency, I think it was important for the public to see what exactly happened at the July 16th meeting. So let's talk about the op-ed by Mr. Brandon. This was in the Spirit, and it ran on July 29th, 2026. And in his op-ed, Mr. Brandon made the following points. He talked about the importance of preserving public ownership of municipal authorities. He talked about how public trust is earned through responsible stewardship, not just rhetoric. He talked about how transparency extends beyond just public meetings, how public institutions should be accountable, and how Chester residents deserve to know how the institutions that serve them are managing public resources. And it may come as a surprise to everybody here who's been watching, but I agree with Mr. Brandon on these points. I agree that the CWA must remain publicly owned. The prior receiver, Michael Dowery, agreed that the CWA must remain publicly owned. I agree about the importance of transparency. I agree that that transparency needs to be demonstrated and not just talked about. And I actually believe that transparency is absolutely critical to Chester's recovery. From our perspective, as the receiver, we believe that recovery is more than just about balancing budgets. It's about building public trust, and it's about strengthening the institutions that allow a city to govern itself. So that means creating a culture of transparency, accountability, and good governance. And here's the key: you want to do that so that it will continue long after receivership ends, because those principles are what has guided us in every one of our major decisions. And in my view, they are partly responsible for the progress that Chester continues to make. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to the elected officials in the city of Chester, to the mayor, to city council, Councilman Davis, to the city solicitor, to staff. They have worked extremely hard in order to the chief of staff, to bring those principles of transparency to Chester. Because the ultimate goal of receivership is not just to get the city out of bankruptcy, it is to leave a city with strong institutions, strong financial practices, and a strong culture of transparency that allows the city to govern itself long after receivership is over. And most importantly, not to fall back into the corrosive machine politics that dominated Chester for decades. We've had authors on here. We've documented this. That corrupt political culture that had dominated Chester for over 100 years significantly contributed to Chester's fiscal decline by wasting resources and by discouraging investment. And I'm very pleased to say that over the last 6 years, and again, I give a lot of credit to the elected officials who have bought into this and who have championed this. We've worked with elected officials to make transparency and good governance part of the city's culture. And we've got specific things, specific actions that the city council, that the mayor, and staff have taken. Number one, live streaming and recording public meetings. Critical to know what's going on, especially when you can't come to, when the public can't always attend council meetings. Posting council minutes on the city website, posting information on the city website before council acts on it, adopting stronger ethics policies, compiling and publishing all of its codes online, which the city is going to do a little bit later this week. Council is going to approve tomorrow the reorganization of the codes to get out there, and also restoring financial controls. And I will say this without reservation: the city of Chester has become a model for transparency in Delaware County. It has become a model for transparency in Delaware County. And I don't make that claim lightly, and I don't back away from it. And you can see based on the actions that this city has taken. Now, let's be clear about this. Transparency by itself doesn't solve every problem, but it makes it much harder for problems to go unnoticed and unaddressed. And it's also simply the right thing to do. So I want to spend a moment when we're talking about transparency to talk about the city's audits. It's something that we've been criticized over about being not up to date on the audits. And I want to talk about those in a couple of slides here to explain kind of once and for all what's going on with them and what we're trying to do. So to start with, when the receiver was appointed back in 2020, the city unfortunately was well behind on its audits. At that time, the last audit that had been published was for 2016. Now, if you remember 2020, and many of us are trying to forget 2020, what was going on when the receiver was appointed during that time was the city was running out of money to make payroll. Its police pension fund was almost out of money to pay checks. The city had laid off a third of its workforce, and we were in the middle of a worldwide global pandemic. So we had to prioritize the work that we were doing over the first couple of years, and a lot of that was trying to get the city stabilized and back on its feet. It wasn't that we didn't care about the audits, wasn't that we were trying to ignore the audits. It was that we had an immediate emergency that we absolutely had to address. If we had the audits up to date and didn't focus on the other things, we probably wouldn't be here right now. We've also had to deal with years of financial disorder, to be honest, and the switching over of a financial system. So the release of the 2023 audit, where we are right now, is imminent. We expect to have it out by the end of this week, and maybe even sooner. But just as importantly, the time that it has taken to complete the audits has significantly been reduced thanks to the work of the city's CFO, who was hired in May of 2024, Rich Troutman. He is a CPA, as well as our new auditing firm, Maley, who was hired in December of 2025. So we're currently on track to get 3 audits completed this year and 3 audits completed next year, which will get the city fully caught up on its audits by the end of next year. We're on track to do that. That is the goal, and that is what we're pushing on. And what I've got on this slide is to show you going back how long it has taken to complete audits in the city. And what you've noticed over here, going back the last 15 years, which is where I have the audits from, for most of those years, it almost took a year, and sometimes it took more than a year to do so. But the last 2 audits, again, both of which Maley has done, both of which were here while our CPA CFO is here, have taken less than 4 months to do, or thereabouts. They're around that time. So you can see over here the 2022 and 2023 audit, 149 days and 114 days. That's how long those took. And we meet on a weekly basis. We've got to check in with the auditors every Thursday. I'm on those calls to see where things are, and we're continuing to move them along. So that's the story on the audits of the city. We're not trying to hide anything. We're behind, and we're moving as quickly as we can to get ourselves up to date on that. So that's the city, right? We started about talking about an op-ed written by the CWA's board chair, which again I said I agreed with. So we're going to talk. We talked about the city's practices, transparency practices. What about the water authorities? Well, here's the situation there, right? CWA does not live stream its meetings. Its meetings occur the third Thursday of every month at 2 o'clock at the CWA Water Distribution Center in Chester. So not their main offices in Overtown, down on Front Street near the river. Not exactly the easiest place to get to. And 2 o'clock on a Thursday, not exactly the easiest time to attend. So again, another situation where live streaming would be really, really helpful. CWA, for some reason, doesn't post its minutes on its website. It also, as I have learned, because I've had to file right to know requests, does not post information on its website before its board acts on it. So rather, it does something that I have never seen before, and I do not understand the point of from a transparency perspective. It marks every document in its board member packets, including the agenda, which, by the way, is posted as, quote, confidential. Every single page, it marks as confidential. So Mayor and Councilman Davis, the packets that we send out, that Ms. Brown sends out, that show, what you're voting on, the resolutions. Imagine if every one of those were stamped confidential, even though they're being discussed publicly. And also, CWA does not post its bylaws online, so you don't know what the rules are over there. They don't post that online. So one question may be like, hey, like you're the receiver for the city. Why do you care about CWA transparency? As many of you know, the receiver's transparency efforts have extended beyond just the city, also to authorities to which the city has power of appointment. Folks may not know this, but to be clear, under Act 47, the receiver does have jurisdiction over municipal authorities that are directly or indirectly controlled by the distressed municipality or to which a distressed municipality has power of appointment. And that term does not include joint municipal authorities. So many of you remember the prior receiver took action with respect to the Stormwater Authority. I took action last year when the CWA blamed the city for a 14% rate hike that they made, seeking additional information. So the receiver does have jurisdiction over authorities, and extends beyond, again, just the city. But I would say more importantly, why I care about this is to make sure that the city's statutory rights are protected. So, what are the city's statutory rights with respect to CWA? There's been a lot of talk about the Supreme Court's decision in January. And I want to be very, very clear about what the court decision said. Not what people want it to say, but what it actually said. And what they held, what the state Supreme Court held, was that the city of Chester, alongside Delaware and Chester counties, has the same statutory rights with respect to the Chester Water Authority as any other municipality that created an authority. Yes, the city of Chester cannot unilaterally take the Chester Water Authority's assets back, but it has the same rights as Chester County and Delaware County. No more, no less. And with those rights come responsibilities. So, in addition to appointing 1/3 of the CWA's board, the city also has the right, again, along with Delaware and Chester counties, to exercise certain powers under the Municipal Authorities Act, and therefore it has an interest in how CWA is being run and how how CWA is spending ratepayer dollars. And again, I just want to remind folks out here how the CWA at the end of last year blamed the city for a 14% rate increase that took effect this year, but never justified that increase with financial data. So I want to talk a little bit here about kind of shifting gears and getting into what I would really call sort of the heart of the presentation, right? And to talk about things again that I've not seen before, and that makes me incredibly uncomfortable as someone who is a public official. And I think many of you who are also public officials who may be watching, some lawyers who may be watching, some folks in the press who may be watching, have seen things that are not normal when it comes to public entities. And I want to talk first about the city's rights to appoint board members. And again, under the Municipal Authorities Act, the city appoints 1/3 of the Chester Water Authority's board. And what's been clear over here is I believe the city of Chester's I believe the CWA board has taken actions with respect to this that are again things that I've never seen before over here. And we're going to see some video of that in a moment. So let's talk about the facts over here. On March 7th, 2026 of this year, Chester City Council, not me, Chester City Council, unanimously appointed its chief of staff, Thomas Moore, to fill a vacancy on the CWA board, as was their right, due to the death of Mr. John Shelton. Before joining the city in September of 2024, Mr. Moore worked for the Chester Water Authority for over 25 years, was well liked there, and left as the Director of Business Development Information Technology. On March 31st of 2026, Mr. Moore attended the CWA board meeting, accompanied by the mayor. Councilman Davis was there as well as Councilman Green, Councilwoman West, Councilwoman Gibson was ill at the time, unfortunately, as well as a city solicitor to participate in the board meeting, but he was not allowed to do so. And so what was interesting was in a recent filing, the Chester Water Authority, in a recent filing trying to remove Mr. Moore from the board, the CWA claimed that it had never refused to seat Mr. Moore. But the video that I'm going to show you at the March 31st, 2026 board meeting shows that Mr. Moore was not seated, despite his very specific request to do so. So let's take a moment here and let's watch this video. And I'm going to take you a little bit in terms of kind of a little bit of a play-by-play to kind of observe what's going on here. So this will only take a minute. Let's go ahead and get started here. Can you all see that? Yep. Okay, here we go.
I see that we have a number of guests.
So this is the March 31st, 2026 CWA board meeting. This is the board. If you all can see my pointer here. This is the seat where Mr. John Shelton used to sit. You'll notice over here, it's maybe hard to see, there's a photo of Mr. Shelton there. So empty seat over there. This is Ms. Livia Smith, a board member. You'll notice that she put her purse on that seat. So pretty clear, not really a welcoming not really a welcoming way to welcome Mr. Moore, and who was there to take his rightful place. So let's go ahead and keep watching.
Room, if you could just stand up and state your name and your affiliation. Starting here. Oh, they're employees. Okay, never mind then.
This is, for those of you who don't know, this is Thomas Moore, who will be introducing himself, and he's going to be presenting his credentials. Sitting down here behind this gentleman is the CWA solicitor, Francis Catania, who I'll be mentioning quite a bit today. You'll often hear his voice kind of off screen. So again, Mr. Moore, just over here as well, you can see Councilman Green, the city solicitor, Ken Schuster, the mayor is there. Councilwoman West is there, and again, Councilman Davis is off screen here, attending the meeting as well. So let's keep going.
Formally reintroduce myself, Thomas Moore, from the city of Chester. I have for the board an official certification of a duly adopted resolution the city council adopted last week, appointing myself to the Chester Water Authority board. So I have a copy.
So I'll just start with this. This is also really unusual. The fact that like Mr. Moore has to introduce himself, the fact that a mayor has to show up with other members of council and the city solicitor simply to take a seat on a duly appointed board. I don't think has ever happened in the Chester Water Authority's history. Don't know if that to be sure, but never seen something like this before. This is unusual. Mr. Moore should be seated up there with the other board members. But let's keep, and he's about to present his credentials.
Chairman, for you and your colleagues. I understand that there's some questions that were raised regarding the legality of that, which we think are not relevant. I am a duly appointed board member by mayor and council of the city of Chester, and I'm here to serve in my capacity as a new board member. I come in peace. I'm not looking for any issues. I think we've had periods of time.
That's the voice of the CWA solicitor. It's going to be hard to hear him, but what he's saying is we're allowing our agenda to be hijacked. We can address this item under agenda item number 4 in public comment. Just listen for that as we go along.
We're allowing our agenda to be hijacked. Right. We're at number 3, the introduction of guests.
I'd like to be seated as a board member.
And you hear Tom saying, I'd like to be seated as a board member.
Address this under item number 4, public comment on the agenda item. We would need Mr. Moore to preface his remarks with his name again and his address.
I'll be happy to do so, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So that was Mr. Moore trying to get seated there, and that was at the beginning of the meeting, and I will not surprise anybody else. He was not seated at that board meeting. There was other other discussions later on in the in the meeting, and again he was not seated. So based on the way that Mr. Moore was treated, and on those actions, on April 14th, 2026, the city had to go to court to ensure that Mr. Moore could participate as a board member. On April 24th, this was in the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas. On April 24th, 2026, Judge Kelly Eckel ruled that Mr. Moore met the qualifications to serve on the CWA board and could participate in the business of the board and importantly, should have the same rules applied to him as are applied to other board members. But that did not happen at the July 16th, 2026 board meeting, as we will see. So at the July 16th, 2026 board meeting, Mr. Moore requested additional detail on $4.8 million in expenditures that the board was voting on. He said he did so to comply with his fiduciary responsibilities, as the expenses were by function. They were grouped by function on a page and a half of paper. Two of the board members, including Chairman Brandon, indicated that a board member could simply ask for additional information. But the Chester Water Authority's solicitor, Frank Catania, called Mr. Moore's request, quote, performative, and seemed to suggest, and again, this is something I've never seen before, seemed to suggest that Mr. Moore would need to file a right-to-know request for this information, despite Mr. Moore being a board member. So let me just take a moment here and actually show you what occurred. All right, Cody, can we see that? Okay, so this is the part of the meeting, and I should say too, these videos are coming from the Chester Water Authority's YouTube page. I have links for them in the in the presentation, and we're about 14 minutes into the meeting here, where the board is approving or ratifying expenses. Those of you who can see, this is Mr. Catania. This is Mr. D'Agostino, another attorney for the Chester Water Authority. This is, again, Mr. Catania, who is the CW solicitor. So let's go ahead and listen.
Moving to item 8, Chief Financial Officer's Report. May I have a motion for item 8A, request to approve expenses by function report?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brandon? Yes.
Before.
So at this point, Mr. Moore is going to talk about, he's going to make his request for additional information. Let's go ahead and watch.
Yeah, but, more of a comment, because as you noticed at the last meeting, I voted no on this. And as you know, Mr. Chairman, I had the pleasure of working at the Chester Water Authority for many years. My office was located in the finance department. The finance department, led by the CFO, top-notch, very, very professional. I have no question when I vote no. It has no reflection on the finance department. My concern is simply that we're voting on something. I don't feel comfortable in my fiduciary responsibility. An expense by function report, which shows that we spent $4.8 million, and it's by function, it's by category. I just think I'd like to see more detail on how that 4.8 million breaks down. So it's not that I don't think there's any improprieties or anything. It's not that I don't value the work that the finance department does, because I was there, I saw that. I would just like to see additional detail before we vote on $4.8 million worth of expenses. That's the explanation. Last time I did give an explanation as to why I voted no. That's something that I think I want to share with the board. That's all. Thank you.
So Mr. Moore there is doing what a board member should do, right? Just like a council member would do, whether it's the mayor, Councilman Davis, other folks, upon something that they could be voted on, asking very, very simple questions about requesting additional information. So the next thing that's going to happen is Ms. Smith, a board member, is going to note, how, and she's been on the board for quite a while, what she understands the process to be. So let's listen.
Isn't there a memo in here that says this report summarizes expenses by function, but details of each payment are available upon request. So you can request the details prior to the report. Can you not?
So Ms. Smith is simply saying, there's a note on here that says you can ask for additional information. That's the process, right? Can't you go ahead and do that? All right. So back to Mr. Moore.
If that would be shared, I would be happy to request that. I'm requesting it now, and let's.
So he's requesting it now. He's going to talk about having it in the next board meeting, and then you'll hear the voice of the solicitor, Frank Catania, who is off screen to the left. So let's listen here about his response. And again, the other people I want to, if you're a lawyer on here, pay attention to this, right? I think this is really particularly important, right? Because for folks who don't realize this, a solicitor of a board, the client is the organization, and the organization works through its board and staff as well. So this is the lawyer, and the people up front over there, all of them are part of that lawyer's clients. So I want particularly for the lawyers who are watching this to listen and see if they've ever heard an attorney address a client like this. Let's go ahead and listen.
We're in active litigation with Mr. Moore. This is more of a performance rather than an attempt to solve a problem or address an issue. There are procedures in the law which we always follow. Mr. Kapoor followed them prior to the last meeting by showing up, making great request for.
So again, I want you to listen there. What's he saying? He's saying like there's procedures in here. You know the procedures. You can do what Mr. Kapoor did. That was me, which is show up and file a right to know request. Right. So again, he's addressing a board member, and he's saying this is more of a performance. Let's keep listening.
And then coming here and then speaking at both sessions. So this is performative. So Mr. Moore is well aware of what the procedures are. If he simply follows them,
So he's saying he's well aware of what the procedures are, but Ms. Smith just said you could ask, right? She just said all you got to do is ask, and he's saying Mr. Moore is well with the procedures. What are those procedures if not what Ms. Smith just said? Let's keep listening.
he can make an attempt to get what he has. We're in active litigation with him, and we're seeking his removal from this board. So I would suggest that the board not comment further on his comments.
Okay, so now back to, again, for any attorneys watching that, just take that in. All right, let's go back to Mr. Moore.
This is not performative. I think as a board member, I believe I have a right to ask and state my opinion on whether or not we should approve $4.8 million worth of expenses based on categories that are a page in the order. If you want to characterize it as performative, that's your opinion.
So again, Mr. Moore has asked for additional data, right? Not confidential information, additional information on $4.8 million of expenses. So just again, so we could take it in for the mayor and for Councilman Davis. Could you all imagine if you all asked for additional information on a resolution and you were responded to by the solicitor saying that your request is performative and suggesting that you need to file a right to know request? Could you imagine that occurring? I don't think so, right? But that's just what occurred over here. So let's keep listening now, because now we're going to shift to Chairman Brandon, who is going to basically reiterate the fact that it's pretty easy to get information. So let's listen to Chairman Brandon.
Well, just to clarify, we're not approving future expenses. These are expenses that were budgeted and they've already been expended, and we're just ratifying that expenditure. If I'm mistaken, is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct. I understand that.
And if there's any specific questions on the line item, it's a simple matter of asking the CFO, can you provide some additional detail on?
If you needed for information, simple matter of asking the CFO for additional information, right? A lot different than being called performative, right? A lot different than suggesting doing a right to know request, right? So let's keep watching.
X, Y, or Z. So that's the purpose of this ratification. So with that, I think we had
So Ms. Smith's going to jump in again, and she's going to be looking at the solicitor when she makes these comments, right? And again, they reaffirm the fact that her belief, and apparently Chairman Brandon's belief, is that this is simply a matter of asking, and then listen to how the solicitor responds. Listen.
any more discussion?
That is offered to any board member.
Offered to any board member. She's looking right at him. Offered to any board member.
If they want it, people have taken the opportunity to ask.
People have taken the opportunity to do so, right? So it's happened in the past, right? And recall the order by Judge Eckel, right? That every board member has to be treated similarly with respect to this.
We'll have an opportunity to ask under the right to know law, as Mr. Kapoor has done.
So will I be required to file a right to know request as a board member?
I'd rather respond to you in writing. We're in litigation with you. I want to make no question or doubt, despite the fact that we're being filmed here, as to what you said and what our response is. So I'll respond to you in writing to the request that you have made.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. I look forward to that.
Okay, so you just heard a board member make a request for additional information, additional financial information, right, to comply with his fiduciary responsibilities. You just saw two board members say, all you got to do is ask, and people have asked in the past. And then you saw the solicitor insult a board member, who, by the way, is part of his client, right? And then also call it performative, and then suggest that the board member should file a right to know request like a member of the public. So, let me go back to the slide deck over here. Part of ensuring transparency is oversight. And that's a responsibility of board members. So board members, council members, others, they can't effectively fulfill their oversight responsibilities unless they receive information from staff. And every board member has the ability and the responsibility to ask questions, request information, and exercise independent judgment. But what you just saw was a board member who was trying to fulfill his fiduciary responsibilities, insulted by the authority's lawyer when the board member asked for financial information that seems to be readily available to other board members. And so our current situation at the Water Authority is that the CWA is spending thousands of ratepayer dollars attempting to remove a qualified city-appointed board member from the CWA board. You have the CWA solicitor treating one board member's request for financial information differently than requests made by other board members. And again, you saw what the other board members said. You all saw it with your own eyes. And again, you had the solicitors appearing to suggest that the board member would need to file a right to know request to get additional financial information, even though he's a board member, and requested that information to comply with his fiduciary responsibilities. So let's get back to transparency over here. I truly believe this, right? And I actually think that this video showed that I think Mr. Brandon and other CWA board members really do believe in transparency. I actually believe that. I put all this stuff aside. I actually believe that. But words have got to be followed by actions. So the Chester Water Authority Board could easily take concrete steps to be more transparent, just as the city of Chester did. But to date, they have not. Instead, the practices that CWA continues to do are similar to what we experienced when we first arrived in Chester. They're very, very similar. And so what we just saw there, and what I would submit to the MFRAC and to the community and everybody else who's watching this, it wasn't transparency. That was control. And it was disrespectful to Mr. Moore personally, to the Chester City Council, who unanimously appointed him, and to the ratepayers of Chester. So again, I will take Mr. Brandon's words at face value regarding his op-ed about the need for transparency and the desire to transparency. I would just ask, in all seriousness, right, to take the concrete steps to become transparent. Whether that's in the stuff that the city of Chester has done, or not allowing things like that to occur again. A solicitor reports to a board. A board does not report to a solicitor. And that's not what we just saw over there in that video. And I hope that changes as we go forward. So with that, that's the presentation that I had today for the MFRAC committee. Happy to answer any questions. Happy to have any comments.
Yeah, a comment.
Sir?
As mayor of the city of Chester, we have a lot of boards. We have a lot of boards here. There is the Chester Water Authority, Chester Housing Authority, Chester Redevelopment Authority, Chester Economic Development Authority, Stormwater Authority of Chester, soon to be Chester Parking Authority. We have a Planning Commission, Zoning Hearing Board, Aggregated Pension Fund Board, IMPC Appeals Board, Civil Service Committee. All those organizations have board members. The board members are selected by mayor and council. If there's ever one thing within city government since I've been here that really goes under a lot of deliberation between mayor and council, is the selection of our board members. Just about all other city business just flies right through during our council meetings. When it comes to board selections, we all have a lot of input in this. On very, very rare occasions, do we all, mayor and council, come up with a single choice to be a board member on any of our boards. And this was one of those cases in Tom Moore. There was no question amongst us that we were going to appoint Tom Moore to be the board member representing Chester Water Authority in the absence of the late John Shelton. None of us would have ever imagined, and I'm speaking of mayor and council, that the Housing Authority would try not to seat our appointment. Personally, I voted for Tom Moore because he's familiar with the Chester Water Authority to a degree that many of the other board members are not. This is a rare opportunity for someone to have that knowledge representing the city in the interest of the city and also of the water department because he knows it so well. And then he does get seated. And I can't believe that Chester Water Authority is now trying to remove him from the board as one of our appointments. And doing so in such a manner that is affecting his work here as chief of staff in the city. I try to get time with Mr. Moore, and he's sitting in front of hundreds of pages of legal documents and interrogatories and all this kind of stuff, showing up in court cases to protect his position on the board that we appointed him to. That's not fair to us. That's not fair to me as a mayor. It's not fair to council who appointed him. It's not fair to the city of Chester who we represent. This is very upsetting to me. Very, very upsetting. It should be upsetting to the existing board over there at Chester Water Authority. You can't be in favor of this. There is no way that you are going to let this continue to happen. What you're basically saying, if you allow this to continue to happen, to not speak up, is that it almost comes back on us that no matter who we appoint to any of those 11 boards that I just mentioned, boards, commissions, that they can be challenged anytime they get appointed. That's not how government works. You know it's not how government works. That's not how the citizens want government to work. It's hard enough getting the city out of the situation that it's in now. This is easy stuff. This is simple stuff. Over there on your board, he's one of how many? There's over 50 individuals that we're appointing to boards, over their terms. Come on, Chester Water Authority, wake up, stand up for your own board, for the board member that we appointed. You know he's solid. You know he's smart. You know he has your interest as well as the interest of every ratepayer that pays $1 for that great water that we receive from Chester Water Authority. That's my plea. That's my charge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm just going to make a very quick comment and follow up on some of the mayor's sentiments. When we, as a mayor and council, as a body, a governing body that represents the city of Chester, decided to put Chief Moore on this board, we did it with the mindset that this is an individual who's come ready to work, who's very knowledgeable about this board position that he will be filling, and something that wasn't mentioned that I feel comfortable mentioning is the financial burden that this is putting on not only the city of Chester, but the Chester Water Authority. When we recommended Chief Moore, when he got there, he publicly announced that he was willing to decline any type of financial payment from the board. He actually opted into getting any type of money to go directly back into the community via maybe a scholarship fund or some way to donate it to kids in the community. So it's not about money, even though we know the economy that we're in, on the national level, the economy we're in. Chief's not in it for money. He's in it to do the work. He's very knowledgeable in what he's trying to do. And I don't see how individual or organizations individuals amongst this organization will be willing to just cause so much strife and problems with someone who's not looking to get anything extra out of this other than to serve and provide a better service than we're already providing and to continue to help the city of Chester grow. So I share the sentiments of the mayor with the rest of my colleagues on council that this is something that we don't really understand. We'd like to hold the Chester Water Authority accountable and say that this isn't something that should be continuing to happen. Everyone that we look to put on our boards are individuals that we believe that are going to, uphold the standard of the city of Chester, the new standard that we're putting here in the city of Chester with complete transparency, honesty, dignity, respect. Tom Moore, Chief, is an example of that. So I'm always going to stand behind individuals who conduct themselves that way. I believe that the mayor spoke, very highly of what we're trying to do. Mr. Kapoor, I love to, appreciate you, all the work that you're doing and the tone that you're trying to set for the city of Chester and anyone that is coming into the city of Chester that wants to see the city of Chester improve. We're here to do just that. for the city of Chester to improve, not go back and forth with more legal bills and nitpick on what can be accessed and what information is for who. That's not how progress happens. That's not how we can look forward to a better city of Chester coming about. So that's really what I really would like to see. And I hope and I pray that that's something that we all as an elected body and any members that choose to serve going forward can agree upon, that we're here to see the city of Chester and any entity that we serve progress in a healthy and productive manner.
Thank you, Councilman. So with that, members of the committee, thank you for again for making it to this MFRAC. Our next MFRAC will be August 25th of 2026. So again, appreciate everybody today, and we look forward to seeing everybody at the end of the month. Have a great rest of your August, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.